Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast live. So this is an unusual time and an unusual day for this particular episode of the show. Normally we do the NFL weekly wrap-ups on Sunday evenings, but a lot of things came up, wasn't able to get that done. So I wanted to make sure that I got on here and I talked about week 12 and gave my thoughts on it. It'll probably go by a lot faster because it's just me. Yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and wait a couple minutes, see if we get a couple people in the chat, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make it happen. All right. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And as people come in, they come in. But what I wanted to do, like I said, was give the quick rundown of the week 12, and the action that went on in the NFL. Some good stuff happened, and so there were some interesting matchups and all of that. But some of the stuff was chalk. There were a couple of upsets, but a pretty good week overall. And we're at week 12 now. Well, week 12 just completed last night in the NFL. So that means we've got five weeks left in the NFL regular season, which is good because we get to the playoffs. And I guess depending on your perspective, the NFL playoffs might be the best playoffs in American sports. But that also tells you we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season. But we got some time, right? Mid-February is the Super Bowl. So what do we have? About 3 months left of the NFL season. So we're still hanging in there, but still it's kind of sad to see that the season is creeping towards an end. Regardless, a lot of great action, and we love this game. So let's get to it. All right. Week 12 started on Thursday night with the matchup, the Steelers and the Browns. And so this was one that, especially coming off the Steelers having won a close, hard-fought battle with the Ravens a week prior, this was one that I know I picked for the Steelers to beat Cleveland. Cleveland isn't a very good team. Lo and behold, Cleveland pulls the upset. How does Cleveland pull the upset? Because it's a divisional matchup. And, Cleveland is still not a terrible football team. And so we saw this was interesting, right? This was, I think, Russell Wilson's first loss as a starter for the Steelers. So now you've got the same thing, right? Russell Wilson had a loss as a starter for the Steelers. Justin Fields has one loss for the starter for the Steelers. So we got to see going down the stretch how this works out and what decision Mike Tomlin is going to make going into the playoffs. Now, I'm more of a proponent of Justin Fields in terms of what he's able to do athletically at this stage in his career. However, he doesn't have the playoff experience that Russell Wilson has. Russell Wilson has obviously went to back-to-back Super Bowls and is a champion back when he was in his Seattle days with the Seahawks. Now, that said, he also had the Legion of Boom with him. He had the great running game with Marshawn Lynch, a.k.a. Beast Mode, and all that helps a lot, right, in terms of what you are able to accomplish from the quarterback position, especially young in your career. But we're going to see what decision Mike Tomlin ends up making, and I'm sure how the Steelers go down the stretch with Russell Wilson is going to play a large role in that. Now, Russ had 270 passing yards, 21 for 28, really good night, one touchdown. So it wasn't like it was a bad night, right? And I think it was the snow was coming down, right? It was heavy snow during the game, which is really kind of cool, right? I live in Florida now, so I haven't seen snow in about a decade. So whenever I see that stuff, I'm always like, wow, I missed that. That looks so cool. You know, you remember growing up, depending on where you grew up, you remember playing football out in the snow as a kid and all that. So, you know, those things come back to you, but still, it's a very entertaining thing. Jameis Winston, 18 for 27, 219 yards, one pick, no touchdowns. Neither team really was able to get the running game cranked up. Neither team really had an outstanding showing, but I think the difference here was Myles Garrett taking over the game and having 3 sacks in this game. So Cleveland's defense was able to kind of be the deciding factor in this one, and Cleveland ends up taking it home 24-19. So a good win for the Browns, and we'll see where the Steelers go from here. They're still 8-3, so that leaves them on top of the division still, but that brings them back to the pack just a little bit. And now we'll see what happens, especially with Baltimore coming down the stretch. So the end of the remainder of the Steelers schedule this season it's not easy, right? If you look at what they got, let's see here. I'll run this down for you real quick. And a lot of times we see that down the stretch of the season, these divisional matchups, they come a lot faster because all the other matchups get played earlier. So that's when you're playing some of your toughest games, because why? The rest of the team, they know you well, right? So this week, the Steelers have the Bengals, then they have the Browns again, then they have the Eagles, then they have the Ravens, then they have the Chiefs, then they finish with the Bengals. Very, very difficult stretch coming home. So we're going to see just how good Russell Wilson still is, or if he is at all, right? And we're also going to see if it ends up being that Mike Tomlin decides he wants to make a move and get Justin Fields back in there. But for the time being, Russell Wilson is the starter. He's got more experience, and we're going to see how this stuff affects him. The Steelers still have an elite defense in terms of the pass rush and all of that. So, you know, just tough going down the home stretch. But again, Cleveland gets the win, and yeah, that was a surprise to me. I didn't expect that at all. All right, next up, Minnesota and Chicago. This game was closer than I expected as well. I had picked Minnesota to win this one. Chicago's not very good, but since the dismissal of Shane Waldron, the OC that Matt Eberflus hired during the offseason, Caleb Williams and the Chicago offense has looked better. Caleb Williams, 340 passing yards. So really, you know, a good day. And the game went into overtime, right? So it's not like there was a blowout here. The Vikings won by 3, 30-27. Sam Darnold, 22 of 34, 330 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Caleb Williams, 32 of 47, 340 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. So they basically played each other to a standstill. And again, Caleb looks like he's starting to come around now. We'll see how that goes next year. Undoubtedly, he'll have a whole brand new coaching staff. He'll probably have a whole new offensive scheme to learn. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we saw. So Sam Darnold, again, playing well, but we've seen him sometimes this season look like the old Sam Darnold. And again, I'll say it over and over again. I just don't trust him in the big game situation. So we'll see what happens when the playoffs come around. But still, the Vikings are now 9-2. They're second in their division. Obviously, the Detroit Lions are the class of the NFC, but the Vikings are 9-2, and they're 9-2 quietly. That's the crazy part, right? So we're watching, and we're seeing the Vikings continue to play well, continue to play good defense. Sam Darnold not making too many mistakes. He's got a really good receiving core. He's got good weapons there, but again, I think when it comes down to it, I just don't believe in him. And Caleb Williams, you can see he's starting to come along. But the Bears are 4-7. It's highly unlikely that they'll make the playoffs. He's going to have a new scheme to learn, new coaches to learn, because I can't imagine the Bears keeping Eberflus this offseason. So we'll see what happens. But there you go. The Vikings win that divisional matchup 30-27. The Bears continue to lose. And one thing I'm interested in seeing, Caleb got a lot of hype as, you know, being the next guy, generational talent, all that. And he is talented, but I'm really curious to see his mental fortitude. I'm really curious to see what he's able to do and how he's able to bounce back next season after facing so many struggles as a rookie. And he's not the first rookie to face struggles, especially not at the quarterback position, right? But for me, the difference is all the hype that he was getting coming in, and just this is probably the first time in his football life that he hasn't been able to, for the most part, dominate. We saw when he faced some struggles last year. We saw his whole body language change. We saw his demeanor change. We saw him literally, jump into the stands and cry with his mother and all this stuff. And so I'm really curious to see where is his mental toughness going into next season. Okay, next game. Detroit and Indianapolis. This was an easy one to pick for me. I picked Detroit, and I don't know what Indianapolis is doing. Anthony Richardson just continues to struggle. 11 of 28, 172 yards. Man, the kid is just bad. And I know that a lot of people are saying, hey, just let him play. Just let him continue to develop and learn the pro game and adjust to the speed of the game and all that. But he's bad. I think he had like 10 starts in college. First of all, I don't know why they drafted him that high. I suppose they thought they were getting another Cam Newton in terms of the size and the physical tools and all of that. But he's not that guy, man. He's not that. I don't think he's ever going to be good. But again, it's only his rookie year. He's got a lot of time to continue to improve, and they have to do a good job of protecting him and surrounding him with weapons and just keeping him upright and not destroying his body by calling too many designed runs. On the other side, Detroit Lions, 10-1. Just the class of the NFC. They can do it anyway, right? They can win ugly. They can win close. They can blow people out. They can score tons of points. They can keep it simple. 24-6. This was an easy one. They can run the football. They can throw the football. They don't turn it over a lot. Clearly, they're well coached. Clearly, they're disciplined. They've got every weapon you could ask for. Not too much to go into on this one. Detroit, 24-6, easy win. I would say the only thing that I'm disappointed in, is Jonathan Taylor this season. I feel really bad for him. He's one of my favorite players in the league. Been one of my favorite players since he played for Wisconsin, and just was a running machine. But I don't know. He's consistently dinged up. He keeps getting nicked, and the offensive line is not what it was early in his career. I want to say 2 years ago, he had that incredible season where I think he had almost 1,900 rushing yards. He was first team All-Pro, and he showed what kind of guy he can be when he's healthy and when the offensive line is clicking. But I don't know, man. I just don't know. It's I feel bad for him. I mean, he's got over 700 rushing yards. He'll break the 1,000 mark, providing he stays healthy the rest of the way. But this is not the Jonathan Taylor we know or expected. Okay, next up, New England and Miami. Miami smokes New England. So this Dolphins team is not completely out of the running to make the playoffs, right? And it's really interesting because once Tua came back and got back into the flow, this offense started looking different. Last week, 29 of 40, 317 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He is the difference maker for this team. He's the difference maker. And when you watch Tua do what he does, this offense clearly cannot function without him. And that's just amazing to see, right? Jalen Waddle, 8 catches, 144 yards. They've given him the weapons, and he being Tua may not be the freakiest player physically, but he can do what he needs to do. And when he's there and when he's playing to his high level, he's able to make it happen. So shouts to Tua, shouts to the Dolphins. Easy win, 34-15. I don't think I expected that though. Drake May has been playing better. I like what I'm seeing from him. New England's got to get this guy some weapons. They have to. They're always going to be a solid defensive team, always relatively well coached, but they got to get some weapons. They've been so poor at that maybe for the last long time. They haven't had elite weapons really since, I guess Gronk was the last elite weapon, but in terms of wide receivers and whatnot and dynamic players, Randy Moss was like the last truly dynamic elite weapon on the outside, on the perimeter that we can say that New England has had. It's a bad look, man. I don't understand for the life of me why they're so averse to doing that. I don't know if they have a problem with their scouts. I don't know if it was all Belichick probably making the final choices, but he's not there anymore. Something needs to give, and they need to get Drake May more weapons because he's a big, strong kid. He's athletic. He's mobile. He's got a big arm. Drake May can do it, provided you give him the tools. But yeah, Miami looks like they may be in position for a little bit of a run here. Let's check their schedule the rest of the way and find out what they've got. So they just beat the Patriots, Tough one. They got the Packers coming up, then the Jets in a divisional matchup. And let's see. Then they have the Texans, the 49ers, the Browns, and the Jets. So not exactly an easy slate for them the rest of the way either, but they definitely look a lot better. I guess the question with Miami is, yeah, their offense is more dynamic, but I'm starting to wonder how long is the leash on Mike McDaniel, their head coach, because he's a good play designer. He's got an exotic run game. He's done everything to make Tua have success. He seems like a player's guy, like his players like him. But how far can he take you? It doesn't appear very far, right? They can't win in the cold. They don't play extremely well on the road. He doesn't seem to, be the type of coach that has the team under tight discipline. Even though he coached under Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't appear to have the Kyle Shanahan type mentality in terms of being a tough guy. So I really don't know. And I guess the question is, with all of that you've got there in Miami, what would you do? Would you get rid of Mike McDaniel and bring in a better coach who is more what's the word I'm looking for? Who is more tenured, more experienced, is kind of tougher, more disciplined? I don't know. I don't know how you work that. But yeah, that's the question, because clearly he's not going to be the guy to get you anywhere. So, yeah, I don't know. But that was that one. Miami with the 34-15 win over New England. All right, next up, Tampa Bay and the Giants. So Tampa Bay wins this one 30-7, and they've been brutalized, just absolutely brutalized by injuries this season. And Baker Mayfield has done everything he could to keep that team afloat, but a lot of weapons have been missing and in and out of the lineup. Just a tough spot, beaten down by injuries. But this week, this was what I call the get right game. Going into this one, I picked the Bucs just because the Giants are bad. We saw they got rid of Daniel Jones. They let him walk. He asked to be released. They released him. So now, what is it? Tommy DeVito is now the starting quarterback for them. And you saw Baker Mayfield kind of mocking him, doing the Italian gesture after he scored a touchdown. I think he ran it in. So he was mocking Tommy Cutlets and doing that, which I thought was pretty funny. Go look at that online if you want to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, 24 of 30 and 294 passing yards on the day. Really good night for Baker. And the Bucs won easily. I mean, what more is to say about that? There's not a whole lot of talent on this Giants football team. Brian Daboll, their head coach, he might end up being gone at the end of this year as well. And it's tough because that's another situation where he was kind of handcuffed, right? I'm pretty sure, given his druthers, he would have wanted a different quarterback. But the Mara family, they like Daniel Jones, and so they paid him and they kept him. And I guess he did show a little flash 2 years ago in winning a playoff game and all of that, but we haven't seen anything since he got his extension. I think he's had more turnovers than touchdown passes. Daniel Jones is just bad, like plain and simple. He's not good. And if Brian Daboll, an offensive coach, a guy who worked with Josh Allen, although there's a lot more to work with Josh Allen, right? But he's an offensive coach. He worked with Josh Allen. He helped make Josh Allen into the MVP caliber type player that we see today. Brian Daboll's a really good quarterback coach, but he wasn't able to do much at all with Daniel Jones. So the Giants are now 2-9, and they'll probably be very bad for the rest of the year. So it's left to be seen what they're going to do in the draft. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to take a quarterback, right? So then the question becomes, if they're bad enough and have the number one pick, do they draft Shedeur Sanders, or does Coach Prime kind of block that move a la Archie Manning? I don't know. That's going to be really interesting. But yeah, the Bucs, they got a much needed win. I think they were coming off a 3-game skid, 4-game skid, right? They had lost to the Ravens, the Falcons, the Chiefs, and the 49ers, right? And played all those games relatively close, right? 41-31 against the Ravens, 31-26 against the Falcons, 30-24 against the Chiefs, 23-20 against the 49ers. And finally, you get what you call that get right game against the Giants, who are not good. And they won 30-7. So they're kind of, I'm sure they feel good about it, and they probably can get another one because they've got the Panthers up next. Now the Panthers are competing. They're playing they're playing better than they're playing better than they were earlier in the year, but still they're not a very good football team in terms of winning games. But it is divisional, so you can never be too sure with those. You know how divisional games go. But yeah, you got they got the Panthers coming up. Then you got the Raiders, another bad team. Then they've got the Chargers, so that'd be a tough one for Baker and the Bucks. The Chargers, very good defensive team. Obviously, Justin Herbert. A lot of people think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and the Chargers, even though they don't have the gaudy numbers, they are determined to run the football. Why? Because that is the ethos of the Harbaughs, right? They will run the football. That's what they do. That's that old school football coaching. So that's going to be a tough game. You got the Cowboys after that. I think they'll probably take care of business against the Cowboys. How Washington did not is beyond me. Again, I guess it's, the divisional game that ends up being a rivalry. So that's tough. Then they got the Panthers again and end with the Saints. So the Bucks probably, let's see, out of their last 5 games, they can win 1, 2, 3, 4. They could win 5, out of the next 6. They could. And if they did that, they would end up 11-6, and then we would see how they shake out for a playoff berth. So we'll see what they got. We'll see what they got. But yeah, they definitely got the quote unquote get right game, and Baker's got 22,799 passing yards on the year with 24 touchdowns. So very good season so far. Excuse me, for former number 1 overall pick Baker Mayfield. But yeah, the Giants apparently are everybody's medicine, right? So what are you gonna do? All right, let's get to the next one here. The next one is going to be Dallas and Washington. I just talked about that. So this was one I picked Washington to win this game. I was wrong on it. Again, I guess you really, at the end of the day, man, these divisional rivalry games and Washington and Dallas is one of the oldest, most bitter, vitriol-filled rivalries in the NFL. That's a tough one. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the Ravens and Steelers or the Bears and the Packers, but it's an old one and it's a tough one. And, these two teams don't like each other. But I did not expect Dallas to go into Washington and win this football game, and they did. So, shouts to the Cowboys here. You won't hear me say that very often, but they got the job done. And I think Jaden Daniels, he didn't play poorly. He was 25 for 38, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, but I don't want to go as far as to say the book is out on him, but now there's a lot more tape on him. He's kind of come back to earth after a scorching hot start, maybe the first 6 or 7 games where he was really just on fire, almost at a record-setting pace. But now you kind of see this team basically, kind of coming back to earth. And I want to say they started out like 7-2, and not sure at this point whether or not they'll actually make the playoffs. We'll see. They started off 7-2. They're now 7-5. So they've lost their last 3 against the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, right? So the Steelers and the Eagles, no shame there, right? Those 2 teams are clearly better than them. But the Cowboys, they should not have lost that football game. That's terrible. And that game could have been over, right, if they'd knocked in the extra point, but near the end. So what are you going to do, man? The Cowboys, I almost don't know if winning that game was counterintuitive. I mean, obviously, the NFL, these guys are the apex competitors, right? So in the NFL, most guys are not going to lay down, but you almost wonder, like, what position are they putting themselves in, they being the Cowboys, because they're now 4-7, and the question would be, what are they going to do with their draft position? What are they going to do? And now their cap is all messed up because they just signed Dak Prescott. They just signed CeeDee Lamb. Michael Parsons is in line for an extension. Now, I think I mentioned this on the show before. I've talked to my other guys about this, Transformer, other friends I talk to about sports. And what I would say is trade Michael Parsons. First of all, this guy, he can't keep his mouth shut. He's always saying dumb things. But even beyond that, he's supposed to be your game wrecker, but in the biggest games, he doesn't show up. But he's a 3-time All-Pro after 3 seasons in the league. So guess what? Trade him and get a haul of picks and use that to try and rebuild your team. But Jerry Jones, he's not going to do that. And I think what it is ego, right? I think he wants to show that his team and his apparatus knows how to recruit people. And so, not recruit people, I'm sorry, they know how to draft. And so when they draft a guy and the guy ends up being really good, they almost never trade him, and they almost never let him go in free agency. And they usually end up overpaying because they like to show that, well, we drafted a guy and he's really good. But in terms of putting your team in a position to be more competitive going forward, because I really don't know what you do. You're stuck at the quarterback position for a while now. So what you need to do is load up around him. Try to get a running back, right? Maybe we know that the numbers say that Dak is so much better when he's got a quality run game behind him. So maybe you try to work yourself into a position where you can draft Ashton Genty, right? The guy out of Boise State. Maybe you try to get him, or you have to do something to put yourself in a position to be a better team next season if you're the Cowboys. And I say trading Michael Parsons and getting a haul of draft picks is probably the way to do it, because when it comes to the games where you really need him, he doesn't show up anyway. And then you also get all that extra noise out of your locker room and all that nonsense. But that's just me. I'm sure Jerry likes it just like that because it brings more eyes to the team. It doesn't bring more wins, but it brings more eyes. So anyway, the Cowboys win 34-26 over the Commanders. Very disappointing loss if you're Washington. That should not have happened. Okay, next game. Where are we here? Give me a second. Let me get back to my page. One more. Okay, next game, Kansas City, Carolina. So I thought that after the Bills beat Kansas City 2 weeks ago, that Kansas City was going to stomp out the Panthers as a, quote unquote, get right game, as I like to call them. But they didn't. And this is what I was saying earlier. Carolina, even though they're 3-8 on the year, they're competitive and they are not rolling over in any of these games. Kansas City is now 10-1. Just like Detroit, but they continue to find ways to win tough games, but they still don't look like the Kansas City that we have known over, the basically most of Patrick Mahomes' career. But the mark of great teams is that they can beat you in a lot of ways. So they win this game 30-27. Again, they find a way, and that's how you do it. At the end of the day, a win is a win, and it's much better to always evaluate what you need to improve in the context of winning the football game. Pat Mahomes, 27-37, 269 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, so not bad, right? He didn't set the world on fire, but good game. Bryce Young seems to have returned from his benching, playing a lot better. 21-35, 263 yards and a touchdown. So, and no turnover, no interception. So he's playing better. Got to give him credit there. I still don't think that he's ever going to be the guy that, I don't know, some people thought he might be. Basically, all that was SEC bias taking this guy number 1 overall over CJ Stroud. There's a big difference, even though CJ Stroud is taking a step back this year. And that's fine because, NFL defensive coordinators, they got a job to do as well, right? It's not just the OCs and the quarterbacks that are going to get all the credit and have something to do. The defensive coordinators do as well. So I like I said, I look at this and I see, man, Kansas City, they find ways to win, but I know they're not satisfied with it. And especially, again, against a team like the Panthers, it's a team you're supposed to blow out, and they didn't. But 10-1, they get the win, and they're going to keep going on. And I think their biggest thing is they're trying to make sure that they have home field throughout the playoffs, right? Because Arrowhead, as we know, especially under Pat Mahomes, very tough place to play come January. So they want that. All right. Next up, Tennessee and Houston. This was, I can't figure this out. So CJ Stroud, 20 of 33, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. I was just talking about how CJ Stroud is not having the season this year that he did last year. He was very careful with the football, did not throw a lot of interceptions last year, and just had a really good year, right? This year, he's still got the yardage. He's 4th in the league in passing yards, 2,875 yards, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, right? So he's throwing a lot of picks, a lot more than last year. But again, like I said, defensive coordinators in the NFL, they get paid too. And I'm sure they spent a lot of time this offseason studying this guy, right? Now, he hasn't had all his weapons all year, but realistically, it's the NFL. Everybody gets hurt. That's not really an excuse. But here's the crazy thing. So you're watching this game, and if I'm not mistaken, Houston sacked Will Levis 8 or 9 times in this game, and they still lost. Like, how does that happen? Will Levis, he threw an interception. He was 18-24, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked 8 times. 8. How do you sack a guy 8 times and you still lose the game? That doesn't add up, right? I think a big part of it, Tennessee was able to run the football effectively 33 times for 132 yards. Houston ran the ball 17 times for 40 yards. That'll get you beat, right? Joe Mixon is one of the better running backs in football in terms of his all-around impact on the game. He can run it between the tackles. He can catch it. Really good player overall at the running back position. But Houston could not get anything going in the run game, and that will do it to you. That will do it to you. So you have to do better than that. But yeah, it's amazing to see. Let's see. What do we have? 3 turnovers, right? 3 turnovers for Tennessee. Will Levis was sacked 8 times, and yet Tennessee still comes away winning this football game. Like, that's got to be a gut punch. That's got to hurt. Now, Houston is still 7-4, and they have the benefit of being in a relatively bad division, so they probably will still win the division. What's that? Houston, the Jags, the Titans, and the Colts. So Houston, by virtue of being in a terrible division, they're going to win the division and make the playoffs. But they got a lot of things to clean up and to figure out before the playoff time comes. So I don't know what they're going to do. C.J. Stroud's got to step his game up, but it's a rougher year too, a step back. But I would say that we probably can look forward to a really good year 3 from him, and they just continue to put the weapons around him. Stephon Diggs, he's out for the remainder of the year. I think he tore his ACL. Nico Collins has been injured. I think Tank Dell has had some time injured. Mixon has been in and out a little bit. So he hasn't exactly had the stability around him. But we'll see. We'll see what it ends up becoming. But at the end of the day, this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. So, Yeah, but that game, strange stat line, man. Three turnovers the defense forced, sacks Will Levis 8 times, and they still lose the game. That's highly unusual. You almost never see that. Okay, Denver and Las Vegas. So who would have thought coming into this year that the Broncos would be 7-5? They're third in the AFC West, but still very much alive for the playoffs, and that Bo Nix is really playing well, and maybe even chasing down Jaden Daniels for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I would have thought, a few weeks back that Jaden Daniels had that sewn up, but Bo Nix has really come on, and he's playing well. So this last game, he was 25 of 42 for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Now, what you're seeing here is that he seems to be the perfect quarterback for the system that Sean Payton wants to run, right? He's mobile, so he can get out and move. If they decide to move the pocket, he can do that. He can also stand in there and throw it, and there's a lot of short underneath stuff. There's a lot of swings to the flat, that kind of thing. So Sean Payton is putting his young quarterback in position to have success. Bo Nix has 11 passing touchdowns and only 6 picks. So not terrible at all. He's doing all right. And he's completing, 60% of his passes, which will improve. Maybe not this year, but it will. I'm sorry, it was 60% for this game against the Raiders, but he's 65% on the season. So he's accurate. He's getting the yardage. His average per attempt is low, 6.4. But again, I think a lot of that is part and parcel of how Sean Payton wants him to play quarterback, and he's not turning the ball over a lot. So we'll see what he does next season. And he's more athletic than I would have presumed in terms of what he's able to do. Like, we saw his athleticism last year in college, but I didn't assume that would transfer extremely well to the NFL. But it's done all right. So, Bo Nix is playing well. He's, they are putting him in a position to succeed, even though he doesn't necessarily have elite weapons around him. But the Broncos also have a really good defense. Then when you look at it, the Raiders are just bad. They're 2-9 on the year. They look like they're battling the Giants for the number 1 pick. And I know a few weeks back, Shadur Sanders, the guy who a lot of people think it will be the number 1 overall pick. If it's not him, it'll be Travis Hunter. But a lot of people think that he'll be the first quarterback taken, maybe number 1 overall pick. He met with Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, and I think he also said that he can see himself as a Raider. So who knows how that's going to work out. We also don't know what the Raiders coaching situation is going to look like next year. Not sure Antonio Pierce survives the offseason. So a lot going on there. Who knows? But Raiders are just bad, man. They don't have a quarterback. Their coach seems to have lost the team. I don't know. They're not good. Mm. All right, San Francisco, Green Bay. How much do we have to talk about this one? There's not a lot. This has been a long time rivalry, but Green Bay just stomped them out. San Francisco suffering again from the injuries. C-Mac is not his old self. Only 11 carries for 31 yards, so they couldn't get the run game going. No Brock Purdy. Just man, just a tough night. Green Bay ends up winning the thing 38-10. Easy. Not much to say. I do like Josh Jacobs, 26 carries for 106 yards. He's been another difference maker on the ground. It's almost like the running back has kind of come back this year. When you look at a Saquon Barkley, when you look at a Josh Jacobs, when you look at a Derrick Henry, running backs, Joe Mixon down in Houston, you're seeing running backs are really making an impact, and that's good. Hopefully, I don't think they'll ever get paid to the level that we would like to see them get paid, or I don't think they'll ever be the feature of an offense to the extent that they once were. But it's good to see them getting attention again, and it's good to see them being impact players and difference makers. But yeah, when you look at this thing, man, Green Bay is, oh my gosh, they just crushed them, and it was not good at all. All right. Easy work. Seattle 16, Arizona 6. So this is funny. I keep talking about it, right? I don't know if this is a function of coaching. I don't know if it's a function of roster. I cannot figure out what is going on with the Cardinals, Arizona. This is a team that they're like this, right? They're a roller coaster. One game they play extremely well, another game they play extremely poorly. And I don't think it's a good look overall. This is a team you cannot count on from week to week, which is precisely why I chose the Seahawks in this game. And I think now you're looking at a division that's got, let's see, the Cardinals are 6-5, the Seahawks are 6-5. I want to say the 49ers are 5-6 or 5-7. So everybody's like right around the same spot. I think, and I think the Rams are 5-6 or 5-7. So everybody is sitting right around the same spot in this division. It's going to be crazy when it comes down to it to see who wins this game at the end. I'm like, huh? I'm not this game. Who wins this division at the end? So it's up for grabs, man. But somebody has to decide that they want to take it. But yeah, this is. I don't even know how to describe it other than to say the Cardinals can't be trusted. The Seahawks can't be trusted. I don't know. I really don't have much to say. It wasn't the most exciting game, but I don't know. Just I don't know. Can't say it. Kyler Murray overall wasn't terrible. 24 for 37, 285 yards, but no touchdowns and an interception. That's not going to help you win games. That's not going to help you. And then you wonder, Marvin Harrison Jr., everybody was making the big deal about him coming out. He's a guy that he shows up, he goes down. He shows up, he goes down. He's another guy that's a roller coaster. And the funny thing is, obviously his physical tools are there. He can do a lot of things. I was never that high on him. And maybe part of it is, again, it's the same thing of, his dad's a Hall of Fame wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Sr. Maybe he just doesn't have the same drive, desire, or interest in the game to be great. I don't know. Maybe the adjustment is more difficult for him than we thought it would be. I don't know. But I tell you, if you go back and watch old shows, I never thought that he was the best. He was wide receiver 1. I always thought that was Rome Odunze up there in Chicago with Caleb Williams. But I don't know, man. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm just not sure. 3 catches for 47 yards last game. It's like, do you want to be great? I really don't know. But we'll see. I keep saying I don't know because I just have no idea what's going on with the Cardinals. I really don't. All right, let's go. Where are we now? Okay. The Sunday night game, Philadelphia and Los Angeles. Okay, so when I do the show tomorrow, I'm going to have a do I believe? What's up, Big Willie? Do I believe? That's an interesting. I'm not sure what you're saying, but okay. Where was I? Philadelphia and the Rams. So we got Philadelphia and the Rams. Philadelphia is 9-2, and they are one game, I guess, behind Detroit in the NFC for best team in the conference. And that is a really good football team. And we know how good Jalen Hurts is when everything around him is working right and everything's together. He's got weapons on the outside. Obviously, he's got A.J. Brown. He's got Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith didn't play the other night. I think he was out. But the big one, the huge acquisition that worked perfectly for this team in the offseason was Saquon Barkley. And man, Saquon Barkley, there's a lot of discussion on whether or not he's now in the lead for the MVP award this season. I don't think so. He'll be probably Offensive Player of the Year. I know they're going to do everything they possibly can to give the MVP to a quarterback, but we'll see. But yeah, Saquon Barkley set the Eagles franchise single game rushing record with 255 rushing yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. I think he had over 300 yards of total offense, if I'm not mistaken. But Saquon, man, he's a difference maker. And I know that the Giants got to be sick. They just got to be absolutely sick for letting this guy go. And then he signs in the division and he's destroying everything in sight. Like, they got to be sick. Saquon is killing it. And I believe he's on pace to break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record. He's on pace for a little over 2,100 yards this year. So he's now leading the league in rushing. I think Derrick Henry's number 2. I also believe he has the 3rd highest yards per carry average in NFL history at 6.2. And I'll be doing a topic tomorrow about Saquon Barkley and whether or not he is in the lead for the MVP or should he get it or what have you. But he's killing. And the Giants, like I said, the Giants got to be absolutely sick in watching this. Saquon's got 1,392 rushing yards on the season and 10 touchdowns. He's killing. He also has another 257 receiving yards. So he is really doing his thing. And the Eagles look so good. The defense is looking amazing. They look back to the type of team that they were when they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So we'll see just how good the Eagles are. I think that we probably can, I mean, anything can happen in football, right? That's why I say any given Sunday. But I think we can probably boil down the NFC safely to Philadelphia and Detroit. And that is going to be a hell of a game when it happens. So looking forward to that one. All right. Finally, Baltimore and Los Angeles. I like to call that the Har Bowl because you had John versus Jim Harbaugh last night. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh has returned from a 9-year hiatus from the NFL, coaching at his alma mater, University of Michigan, culminating in a national championship last year. And he's now coaching the San Diego Chargers. And the Chargers played his brother's team, the Baltimore Ravens, last year. And it's funny, John Harbaugh is the older brother, and he is now 3-0 in his NFL career against his little brother, Jim. And so I guess Jim Harbaugh obviously doesn't ever want to lose, but if he's going to lose, I'm sure he doesn't mind it being to his brother. But what you saw last night was typical Ravens doing work. Herbert didn't have a great game, 21-36, 218 yards, pretty much kept him in check. J.K. Dobbins, 6 carries, 40 yards. We knew that was going to happen because the Ravens have an elite run defense. But what you are seeing is the Ravens pass defense starting to figure things out. Going into last night, it was still worse than the NFL, but over the last few games, it has looked improved, right? So it's not like Justin Herbert was able to tear their pass defense up. And that was something that I had concern about going into this game. The Ravens secondary getting shredded, but we can also say that what's my man's name? Justin Herbert, while he's a really good quarterback, doesn't have the most elite of passing weapons. So, you can say that. I'll tell you, Quentin Johnson, he was a beast at TCU a couple of years ago when they made that run to the national championship game. 5 targets and no catches last night. There's something wrong there. Might want to look into that. Ladd McConkey, there's no reason he should be your number 1 wideout in the NFL. Like, he's good. He's solid. He should not be your number 1 wideout in the NFL. But The Chargers were held under 100 yards rushing as a team, 20 carries for 83 yards. So good job there. Meanwhile, Baltimore did what they do, 37 carries, 212 yards. For the life of me, I cannot figure out why Todd Monken, I know you have to make adjustments depending on the team you're playing, but when Baltimore makes a commitment to run the football, they cannot be beaten. They are unstoppable. And every time they don't make the commitment to run the football, Todd Monken and the Ravens end up taking an L, and I can't understand it. Derrick Henry, 24 carries last night, 140 yards. Give this guy the rock, please. Give this guy the rock. What do I always say about the way to win football games? It's a simple formula. Run the ball, stop the run. Run the ball, stop the run. It's a simple formula. Give Derrick Henry the rock. He needs touches. He needs to get warmed up, and he will do just fine. But you got to let this guy tote the rock. It's that simple. But yeah, another 200-yard rushing day for the Ravens, or rushing night, and they come away with the win at 30-23. So now you have the Chargers at 7-4 on the year, the Ravens at 8-4 on the year, and it's well, I mean, coming down the stretch, the Ravens. Let's see what they have. So they just beat the Chargers. So they've got the Eagles next week, or I guess this week coming. That's going to be a real test. They got to figure out how to stop Saquon, but they also got to figure out how to stop Jalen Hurts on the ground. Meanwhile, they've got to control Jalen Hurts through the air with his weapons. Now, Lamar Jackson, absolute beast, a monster. Derrick Henry, a monster. So I think a big part of that is Monken has to commit to running the football. Keep that high-flying Eagles offense off the field. That is what they have to do. It's that simple. Keep that Eagles offense off the field, run the football, pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. Now, the Eagles defense is really good as well. But again, when the Ravens run offense gets going, there's nothing you can do, nothing at all. So we are really going to see just how dedicated to playing Raven football Todd Monken really is. And I don't know how dedicated he is, but that is always my main concern, especially in these big games. But this is going to be really good. I hope he doesn't try to outthink himself or get too cute, man. But that's going to be a heck of a matchup. So you got the Eagles. Then regardless of that game, you got the Giants after that one. If you're Baltimore, that should be an easy win. You have the Steelers at Baltimore. So that's going to be another nightmare, knockdown, drag out. Lamar Jackson somehow needs to get over that one and beat the Steelers. Then you've got the Texans, and you finish with the Browns. So not an easy sledding down the end of the schedule for the Ravens either. So we're gonna see, man. But the Chargers also have ample opportunity to make the playoffs, and that's what Jim Harbaugh does, man. He specializes in turning teams around. So it's gonna be good. They've got the Falcons coming up, then the Chiefs, then the Bucks, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Raiders. So 6 games left, and I think the Chargers can win 3 of those. If they do, what do they end up, 10-7? And it's going to depend whether or not they make the playoffs. How does everything else in the AFC shake out, man? AFC is tough. AFC is super tough. But yeah, the Harbaugh, interesting as always, and glad the Ravens came out on top of that one. But yeah, that is it for the NFL wrap-up for Week 12. Appreciate y'all being here. Got another show. I don't know if it's going to be a live tomorrow, depending on what I got going on, or if I'm just going to record it early and drop it for you guys. So we'll see. I got to figure that out. But yeah, got another show. That'll be the Wednesday night. That'll be the Wednesday episode. Again, not sure exactly how that's going to go, but you guys are definitely going to get your show. I'm not gonna leave you alone on that one. I did a lot of prep on that one earlier today. Got some good topics for you. So hope you are looking forward to that. So we'll see what we got. But anyway, yeah, thanks for checking in. Hit the like and subscribe button on the way out. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.